a key element of designing a training is also designing a training curriculum. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about curriculums in general. What I want to talk about here is how to design your curriculum, specifically how to work backwards from what you want to achieve. So while we generally look from left to right, I'd like to invite you to look from right to left. In other words, let's begin with our results. What do we want to achieve? What will the participant be able to know and do by the end of the session, right? So a key term is demonstrated by. And the key thing to think about is, will someone be able to demonstrate higher productivity per hour? And will we be able to demonstrate a higher quality product measured by customer satisfaction? So it's not so much that people know things, it's that people can demonstrate that knowledge or demonstrate that skill. And that's really, really important. So the question I gave as an example is, let's say we're designing a course or a particular session that has these two outcomes: higher productivity per hour and quality of product measured by customer satisfaction. The next thing we have is an output. So we have an outcome and an output. An output talks about the activities or approaches that come out of this process that we have. Okay, so for example, an output or an activity is our training manuals and our coaching sessions. Okay, or in this case, in addition, our weekly performance updates. Those are activities that we include that help us attain our result or our impact. Now, we use the term scaffold. Now, I want you to imagine a building, a very tall building, and think about this term scaffold. Scaffolding is a term that's used to describe imagine the floors of a house or the floors of a building. You start off with the first floor and then you use a scaffold to then build the second floor and the third floor and the fourth floor. And that's exactly what scaffolding means in the learning process. When we scaffold, we start off with the basics and we move from lower order to higher order learning. So we break our outcomes down into sub-outcomes. So we break productivity down and we think about what are the first things someone would need to know in order to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 in a logical way. So for example, we understand that productivity requires knowledge of a computer program. So, and the ability to communicate results. So, when we're thinking about scaffolding, our first step is to think about the basic building blocks of what the person needs to know to operate the computer program. And secondly, what are the key building blocks they need to know to communicate effectively. And once we teach them these two skills in a logical and systematic way, we then will have productivity. Remember, teaching can also be defined as systematized and organized learning. Let me say that again. Teaching, the way we describe teaching, is organized and systematized learning. Right? In other words, the learning is purposeful, organized in a very logical way, and systematic. In other words, things build on each other in a dynamic way. In regards to customer satisfaction, we understand that we would need to scaffold interpersonal skills and training. What are the inputs? We would need time to be considered here, resources. This includes money. How much will it cost to do the training effectively? What are the resources you have available to you? Do you have technology, internet, PowerPoint, projectors? Do you have actual activities, flip charts, pens, papers? You would need an inventory of this. And then the knowledge. What do you need to know? If we're talking about a computer program, what would you need to know, or whose knowledge can you draw on to go through this computer program and develop your own knowledge base in this area. And then finally, I've put this at the end. What is your post-evaluation plan? What is your way of evaluating? You've done a skills audit, but what is your next step and how are you going to evaluate the effectiveness of this intervention? So these are some things to consider as we go about designing a curriculum.